My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
My name is Takudzwa Panda Msesani. I really want to film an artwork, and it has been my goal. I'll be just keeping my eyes open. The worst driver is James. He's driving, yeah. You gotta be holding on back in there, yeah? Like in bumps, and I mean, it happens when, these things happens when you're actually going for animals usually. But then, yeah, he's driving, yeah, you gotta put your seatbelt.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a salesman, eh?
Got no idea what's going on in this reserve.
Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
So we have another giant of Mabula. That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
Wild Earth Travel would like to take you to Namibia and Botswana. Drift over the desert in a hot air balloon, then glide through the lush Okavango Delta in a dugout canoe. This extraordinary journey blends dramatic landscapes with outdoor adventures and unparalleled wildlife encounters. Discover Africa like never before. Book now with Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
Good afternoon, everybody. A very warm and slightly late welcome from my side, at least, to today's Live at the Waterhole. For those of you who are expecting Kerry, I'm very sorry, but Kerry's having some technical difficulties, so I have stepped in. A meagre replacement, I know, but my name is Ben Coley, and I will be with you for the next hour and 45 minutes, give or take, and take you on our daily odyssey through our various African cameras. And it seems that we have started, or you have been enjoying, this wonderful scene at Oldonyo up in Kenya with a whole host of elephant bulls enjoying the water up there, having a good splash around. It's lovely to hear the ambient sound of them doing their thing. So I'm going to remain quiet for a little bit and we will continue to enjoy it for the time being. Oh, but I should say, before I do that, don't forget, it's live and it's interactive. I'd love to hear your questions. So please do send through questions and comments, and we will do our very best to air those on your behalf. Lovely to see such a big group of elephants here up at Oldonyo. Of course, it is the place of big bulls. We pretty much never see any breeding herds in this area. It's great to see another one trundling in the background. I will continue my vigil for the famous Wonton, who I'm still yet to see on this camera whilst live. I know he has shown up recently, so we will hope that he does turn up. I don't know if anybody has seen him recently, but if you have, do let me know. Always good to catch up with some of those more famous elephants and other characters. It's interesting to see the behavioural responses when a new bull comes in. Try and get an idea of the pecking order here. Prime spot is usually where that one just turned away from, and now where this one in the water is having a look as well to try and get to that inflow pipe to get the freshest water being fed in. Oh. It seems he was quite keen to protect his area, but he's lost out already. Let's see whether the other two bow to him when he returns. Well, I've just heard that Wonton came regularly last week. Typical, I was away last week and didn't get to see any of it, but one day hopefully he will do me the service of arriving whilst I am live. Greetings to Catherine and Ellie as well. Nice to hear from you both. Glad you could make it today. And so, not a bad way to start the day. quite a few tons of elephant enjoying that quest of thirst that they have got. But yeah, interesting to see how that one big bull instantly reclaimed his spot when he came back, as he just dished out a little bit of a warning to whomever it was who came to join in the background.
South Africa's wild places are closer than you think because Federal Airlines brings them to you. From the calm of our FedAir lounge to the smooth boarding of our trusted fleet, we take care of the journey so you can enjoy the adventure. Our flights go beyond the ordinary, connecting you to South Africa's most remote and extraordinary locations. Federal Airlines, your gateway to the South African wild.
Can you hear that? The wild is calling.
Beautiful close-ups of the texture of that skin, and say quite the meeting of minds around Old Donyo's waterhole today. I see we've had a few more greetings come in. Mercedes Bean and Joanne Mello, nice to hear from you as always. And Leroy Russell, you're asking how come this waterhole doesn't dry up with all those elephants drinking? Well, it's a good question, considering each one of those elephants is probably drinking between 100 to 150 litres of water a day. And there is a constant stream of them coming down to this waterhole throughout the day. But like many of the waterholes here, this is a managed waterhole. There is a pipe with an inflow. We can't see it at the moment, and it just has a very, very small trickle feed. How that is actually powered, I'm not sure, but many of these waterholes have access to a borehole and are controlled by a solar-powered pump. And it will constantly just be topping up that water to deal with all of the pressure, particularly during the dry season. That one on the left, you can see the muscles contracting as water is being sucked up into the trunk. And you'll notice that usually the most dominant elephant will be the one standing at the pipe. We saw it a little bit earlier. I think it is this bull who's drinking now. This other one may be trying to take a chance. And they will come and they will place their trunk right over that pipe and suck the clean water, fresh water, directly into their trunk. So it's always a good way to sort of monitor who is the most dominant bull within this little sort of social gathering. Remember, we don't know too much about the social structure of these bachelor herds. They are quite loose, members come and go, but as we all know, elephants have incredible memories for individuals and for resources and locations of things. So even if some of these boys haven't seen each other for months on end, there will still be some recognition based on olfactory cues and audio cues that are too low for us to hear in terms of the level of hertz that the elephant is creating. And so this is very much sort of a meeting of individuals, perhaps discussing what they've been up to, what ladies they've found, where the good food is at the moment, whatever else they have discovered on their little treks around the local area. But it is quite normal for a lot of these waterholes that, particularly the ones that have webcams, because they attract people in order to come and either watch or in person. You may be able to hear in the background some human voices. I've never seen behind this camera, but evidently there is a hide here where guests of the area can come and enjoy that wildlife. So some form of management is required to keep it topped up, but it's always a bit of a contentious issue. Should there be? Shouldn't there be? Should we be rather allowing a more natural progression of things? It is good for the environment. If an area dries up, it causes the animals to move away, gives the vegetation and the soil in that area a chance to recover. And then when it fills again with the next seasonal rains, the animals can come back. That is a far more natural system. But obviously, with the drive of tourism and the dollars or the rand or whatever currency you want to discuss that is brought in by wildlife tourism, it is perhaps not such a bad thing to have these areas, and it gives the animals a bit of a safe haven. Many of these areas, of course, don't forget, are fenced, and the animals are incapable of getting to other spots, although an elephant will go through a fence if it really wants to. But as soon as you do restrain or restrict animals to a particular area, it's obviously very important to manage that area in terms of the number of species, and that will be based on the availability of food, water, and other essential resources. So personally, I think having a few is fine. What we don't want is everybody having a pumped waterhole. It is a bit of a problem in some of the reserves because every lodge wants to attract animals to their lodge for viewing purposes for their guests. And then you do get a surplus of water in a particular area, and that causes animals to stay in one area. Good for game viewing, but not so good for environmental pressure. And of course leads to the potential of more human-animal interaction, which under the worst circumstances doesn't always go as well as we would have hoped. So it's important that it's monitored and managed, but conservation management is a massive part of the world now. And most of these things are done very well nowadays. The animal's best interest and the environment's best interest, most importantly, being taken into account. Interesting, this big bull at the back, who's just being obscured by that outstretched trunk, is the one who is drinking from that pipe, and this young bull seems to be sort of nuzzling up against him. And has had one or two little forays in with the trunk and hasn't been rebuffed too hard yet. So whether there is a particular good relationship between those two individuals. Interesting to watch that he chased away another male who was of equal size, but possibly just doesn't see this young male as much of a threat. Or maybe it is someone that he's, or an elephant he's kind of taken under his wing, or under his ear, I suppose, to help educate and mentor him to become a big adult successful elephant. But very interesting to watch. But these are not the only elephants that we have today. It sounds like there's some elephants, if I heard correctly, at Rosie's Pan. So let's go and have a look at that whilst we enjoy this. These two giraffes who I think are going to have to wait their turn. All right, well, it sounds like we have a problem with Rosie's Pan's camera at the moment, but that's all right. We will stay with this group of bulls. And so there's a few giraffes that are beginning to loiter in the background, waiting for an opportunity. We have seen quite a few giraffe drinking in conjunction with elephants over the last few weeks, but I don't think now would be a good time to try and muscle one's way in to that meeting. We will have to wait. It looks like this is a male and a female, and the male may have other things on his mind anyway. It sounds like Rosie has woken up. Let's head over to Rosie's pan and check out Ellie's down there. It's just in time for a pool party. Look at this. Fabulous. Never gets old watching elephants bathing in the water. Lovely to see a little one there as well, and I just love the way they're always so excited. Look at the level of enthusiasm being shown by most of them. They do love a bath, and I'm always amazed they don't do it more often. So there has been a reasonable amount of rain in the low felts over the last few weeks, as I'm sure many of you are aware, but there is nothing else forecast for a while now, and it has been very humid without being particularly hot, so no doubt these elephants enjoying a brief respite from that humidity. Lovely to see such a little one as well, but it seems it was just a quick dip. And as is the standard, one of the young bulls, I'm sure, is remaining behind. Lovely sort of staggered 3 tiers of different aged elephants there, or different sized elephants. But that's more typical of elephants. Come down, have a quick drink, a quick splash around, and then very quickly move on with their days. But those ones at Old Onya, they do like to hang around. Sometimes they'll stay there for hours enjoying that waterhole. Interesting the different approaches that different groups have. Often the breeding herds are constantly mobile. The bulls are a little bit more relaxed in their drinking habits. Yeah, well, that was short but sweet, but lovely to see a brief pool party. Let's head over to Tau in Madikwe. Lovely sea of greenery, interspersed with stripes and blue-black blotches of the wildebeest. Mindy Telepower, you're asking if I think there are conversations going on between those elephants. I assume you're referring to the ones at Old Onyo. I have no doubt there is, Mindy, but quite what they are discussing, unfortunately, we are not yet privy to. But as I said, I would imagine it would be a bit of a recounting of what they've been up to. They do separate, often off on their own for long periods of time, perhaps swapping some old war stories, some university college memories from when they were growing up. You never know, but I'd like to think that is a great meeting of minds, certainly. And Lucy, you wanted to know how to age an elephant. It's quite difficult, Lucy. Unfortunately, that's not like as a kid we don't, stand them up against the door frame and mark off notches once a month or so to see how much they've grown. Um, Really, it's sort of, I would say, a lot of it comes down to experience and some educated guesses. If you know what a full-grown adult looks like and you know what a newborn baby looks like, you sort of fill in the gaps as you go. But there are various variables. Of course, there are genetic differences. Certain animals are bigger than others. And also males of the same age will be larger than a female of the same age as well, just because males are bigger. So there is you pretty much the way I do it is I gauge it on how big I know a full-grown animal is versus what I'm seeing, and then take an estimation based on that. Pretty much a fully grown elephant is going to be sort of 35 and above. So if they're not quite there yet, you can make an educated guess based on that. Also, their height, a particularly young calf under the age of 6 months can walk underneath mum without any problem. You can look at how much tusks are showing. They normally come through between sort of 2 to 3 years of age, depending on the animal. That's when the youngster's tusks will first start to show. And then you look at things like skin condition, whether there's a lot of injuries or skin damage, and also how wide the head is across the bridge of the nose, the bridge of the trunk, and how sunken those temples are. They will get deeper with an older animal.
Experience the magic of the wild on an unforgettable 4-night safari at Mabula Nature Reserve, hosted by the one and only Stephen Falconbridge. With Steve as your private guide, you'll gain incredible insights into Africa's wildlife, leaving with knowledge and memories to last a lifetime. Get hands-on with conservation, track elusive cheetahs, and even take to the skies on a hot air balloon ride. Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
Every guide in Africa has been on an endless quest for the ultimate bush wear. Until now. Rugged Wear has a huge range of amazing bush gear for every wild situation. In the midday heat, those chilly winter mornings, in the storms of summer. Rugged Wear has the bush kit for every wild occasion. Locally made in South Africa, crafted with precision, stitched with quality.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Most people that know me really well call me Max. I'm a mum. I have 2 boys. One is 16 years old and one is 14 years old. I'm a very, very proud mama of my 2 boys. I've just always been passionate about leopards. I'm passionate about their conservation. I'm just passionate about everything to do with leopards. I love them.
There's a beautiful scene. Water, flowers, greenery, and suckling zebras. Ivan, you're saying that you don't have nearly the variety of creatures in North Carolina as we do in South Africa, and is there any specific reason we have such amazing diversity? Well, a lot of it, Ivan, has to do with the geology and also the vegetation types that we have, particularly within the Lowveld and the Kruger area, for example. We have a variety of different soil types and a lot of different habitats and different ecosystems. And the more variety that you have got, then the greater the variety of animals that can make use of all those different niches. So I always sort of look at, for example, East Africa versus South Africa as an example of that. So East Africa, in terms of sheer biomass, certainly does have more animals than we do down here, but we have a greater variety of species. And that's because we have a greater variety of habitats. So it's mostly open grass plains for East Africa. So it very much benefits the grazing animals, those that eat grass. Down here we have patches of open grassland. We also have bushveld, we have woodland, we have forest, we have lots of different biomes within South Africa's borders, and just within a small area like the Kruger Transfrontier Park. We have a whole variety of different areas, and because we have so many different topographical features, such a variation in vegetation type, then we can support multiple species of animals which have evolved to take advantage of those niches. I've never been to North Carolina, so I'm not sure what it's like there. But perhaps your vegetation and habitat is a little bit more homogeneous and therefore can't support such a great diversity. A lot of it will also have to do with what's happened in history as well. I'm sure if you look back 1,000 years or so, there was probably a greater variety there, but due to human encroachment and hunting and the lack of preserved areas for those animals to proliferate, then you may well have lost a lot of the species that would have otherwise naturally occurred in that area. We've been fortunate enough in places like South Africa that these game reserves have been around for a very long time, and it has protected those animals and managed to, hopefully, at least for the time being, take stock of what we have and allow these animals to live out a natural life, to reproduce naturally, and to take advantage of those resources which they have at their disposal. Ivan, I hope that answers your question. It's a bit of a thumb suck, as we say over here. It's sort of a logical thought process, but I hope it makes some sense. And Robert Cole, you're thanking all the beautiful animals that we are seeing. I think so as well. We're very, very fortunate that um, it's because they choose to come to the waterhole and pose in front of the cameras, but sometimes we don't have anything to show you, and we just enjoy the vistas. But the benefit of having these cameras in well-established areas, around areas with good resources like waterholes, means that we do get to see them very, very regularly. And you're also thanking the team that makes it possible. Absolutely. I've got Mika in my ear today, somewhere in Johannesburg. And there are, of course, a whole host of very technically minded and organized people that make this happen. Debbie Didich, you're asking if there are many studies into non-verbal communications between animals and is it used more than we realise? Well, I'll say for the second part of your question, yes, I think absolutely. There's an awful lot of non-verbal communication which we don't pick up or we don't recognise or we are not able to sense with our relatively primitive senses in comparison to that of an animal. Remember, we are very much dictated by sight and verbal speech or the written word for communications. In animals, it's very, very different. Their primary sense is smell. Now, how much of that, of course, is a conscious decision to give off a certain smell versus a biological reaction to hormonal changes within the body that manifests in particular pheromones that are released. That's another story altogether. Shame that little zebra looks like it's got a bit of a limp. But body language is hugely important along with smell. Smell carries all the information about sexual status, about reproduction status, about social status, about mood. All of these things will be picked up subconsciously or unconsciously by animals and decoded by that vomeronasal organ that they have in the top of their mouth connected to their accessory olfactory bulb in the brain, which can then decode that species specific hormonal information. But say body language is a massive part of communication as well. We try and use that when we're out on walks. If we are being faced down by an animal, it is a good idea to try and give off an aura of, I would say, dominance. That's not necessarily what I'm trying to get at, but particularly with social animals that understand body language between groups, it's important that we try and mimic that in order to make things a safer experience for ourselves and our guests. In terms of I have no doubt there are hundreds of studies that have been done on non-verbal communication. I can't quote you any now, but shame, really hobbling, this little one. But if you were to go onto something like Google Scholar and do a search on non-verbal communication in animals, I've no doubt you'll find a plethora of papers which has been written on a variety of species.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website. Safari, wine, and waterfalls. The ultimate African adventure. Sip South Africa's finest wines. Experience a world-class safari among Africa's iconic wildlife, and stand in front of Victoria Falls, one of the natural wonders of the world. All this can be yours with Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
So a few more thanks coming in. Lulu thanking everybody who makes all these views possible and that you love the channel and community. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you are able to do so on a regular basis. It's always really good for the soul, I think, to spend a couple of hours, if not longer, just enjoying this beautiful landscape and the beautiful animals within. It's very, very experiential, and it's good for the soul, as I said, good for the brain. Spas, I toyed with not reading your question out because the simple answer is I don't really know, but for the benefit of everybody, I shall. You're asking what plant types that we have here in Madikwe and what's the geology like in this area, and any plants that specifically use the niche that is there in Madikwe. Having never worked in Madikwe, it's a bit difficult for me to comment on the specific geology of the area. I'd be better qualified to ask, or somebody better qualified to answer that question would be somebody who's worked in that area and therefore has a far deeper knowledge of the specific geology and vegetation. I'm not sure when Kelly is next doing live at the waterhole, but she spent quite a few years guiding at Tau, so she would be a good one to ask that question too. I have been to Madikwe though, and you can see there's very few large trees there. It's a lot of sort of what I would call sort of scrub felts, a lot of acacia species up there, a lot of sickle bush. I believe it was reclaimed farmland, so there has been some overgrazing there, but you can see there are very, very few tall trees. In certain areas, yes, you do get some knobthorns and marulas and things, but generally in areas like this, the only tall trees are things like shepherd's tree, the Boscia albatrunca, which is quite prominent in the western side of the country, prefers more dry, arid areas. We have a few here in the Lowveld, but not very many. But those are the... Oh, was that a Cory bustard walking past in the background? Looks like it could be. I know a lot of the guides will go and check those shepherd's trees quite regularly to see if a leopard has hoisted a kill up there, because there isn't really anywhere else to get it out of the marauding jaws of hyenas. So yeah, in terms of specific vegetation, Spurs, I'm afraid I can't really help you, nor do I know the specific geology of the area, unfortunately. It is a Cory bustard. That's very nice to see. Heaviest flying bird in the world. Known in Afrikaans, and those of you Afrikaans speakers can laugh at my pronunciation, but as a chompo, which I believe refers somewhat to the noise that they make, but also the word chom being G-U-M, to also supplementing their diet with acacia sap and tree sap during leaner times. Good afternoon, Dark Main Lover. I see you've also joined us a little earlier than normal, I think. That we normally only hear from you in the last half an hour or so, but great that you could join us, and saying good afternoon to Mika as well and everybody else in FC. The wildlife lady, I don't know if the crocs are out catching the sun's rays. They potentially might be. We'll have to do a scan of the water's edge to see. We do have quite a few crocs that inhabit these waters in front of Tower Lodge. I'm not sure what the temperatures are in Madikwe today, but judging by what it is here, I think it's up in the 30s. So I'd say there is a good chance that there'll be a croc out on the bank. And I think we're going to have a quick scan for you, wildlife lady, and we'll let you know what we find. But very nice to see a cory bustard. Don't see those all the time. I'm trying to think if I've seen one on Tal's webcam before. We get the occasional ostrich wandering through, but I can't remember the last time, if at all, that I personally have seen a cory bustard on this webcam. No sign of any crocs yet. Of course, there's plenty of water there for them to be drifting around in the shadows. Okay, it sounds like we're going to chance our arm at one of the other waterholes. If we do spot one of those crocs, though, we will let you know. I didn't quite hear where we were going to go, so let's go find out. Ah, there we go. There we have a croc. Just for you, wildlife lady. There you go. One sunning itself. You can see that incisor sticking out to the side of the muzzle. One of the differences between crocodiles and alligators, a more elongated snout, and that I forget. I think it's the fourth canine tooth that sticks out and is visible on the outside of the upper lip. You don't get that in alligators, and sort of gators with a far more rounded snout. We'll be absorbing those sun rays through those raised bony protrusions along the back, what we call osteoderms, which have blood vessels very close to the surface. They kind of come up and through those little triangular, what would we call them, little like serrations. It just helps to warm that blood, which is then sent around the rest of the body, which then gets insulated by that very, very thick skin and subcutaneous layers. Darkmane Lover, you're saying that croc is massive. Yeah, it's difficult, always difficult to tell when you don't have a point of reference next to it how large it is, but certainly has a very long muzzle, long mouth parts. So I would think a good 3.5 meters, I would think. Not one with whom I would wish to tangle. Sparks, you're really keeping me on my toes today, asking me the difference between crocodiles and slender snouted and dwarf crocodiles in Western Africa. Plus, I have no idea. I've never been to West Africa. I will have to do a little bit of reading up for you on that one. I'll see what I can find out and come back to you a little bit later during the show. But no, I don't know too much about the crocodilian life in West Africa, I'm afraid. I've never been up to that area. In fact, the furthest north I've ever been is Tanzania. I haven't actually done North Africa at all, even when I was living in England. Never went to any of the North or West African countries. So I shall add them to my ever-growing bucket list, I suppose. I do seem to remember reading an article about orange sort of coloured crocodiles, which I think was in West Africa. I think I discussed it on one of the shows here, that were funny colour due to bat droppings, I seem to recall. And I think those were the dwarf crocodiles to which you are referring, but I know nothing about them from a physiological standpoint, unfortunately. Okay, well, I'm glad that we have found you your crocodile wildlife lady, and a good afternoon to Ollie the oxpecker, who has joined us as well. But I think let's head back up to Kenya and Oldonyo. Wow, yeah, a few elephants, a zebra, and what looks to be an eland, I think, having a drink now, having its our view obscured. But yeah, looks like an eland, indeed. Now, we did have some other questions come through about elephants, which I was sort of waiting to come back to Oldonyo, so I'll dip into those quickly. Picasso, you are asking that if an elephant is born tuskless, where the tusks were supposed to grow, could there be memory cells that with AI could grow back tusks? Wow, you guys are really hammering me with some good questions today, but this is good. Please do keep it up. It makes me think. Um, okay, so even a tuskless elephant, there's a good chance that it did have tusks when it was very young. Um, Most elephants have what we call milk tusks, which are small tusks that develop sort of under the skin, almost like a root, and they never actually erupt from the skin, so we never see them. They're almost like baby teeth, which will then get reabsorbed before the adult tusk starts to grow through, normally somewhere between 2 and 4 years of age, so that will erupt from the skin that we would be able to see it. Tusklessness in African elephants is generally as a result of some sort of genetic mutation. So theoretically, if we just sort of waive the principles of ethics and things as whether we should, if you're asking whether we could, I don't see why you couldn't potentially grow a tusk from that root, or as you described it as memory cells in that area. I would think it's possible. I've no idea of the genetic knowledge that would be required, but I mean, we can grow ears on a mouse's back, which we've been able to do for 20 or 30 years. So I don't see why we wouldn't be able to do it, but whether we should do it, of course, I think is a whole other story. And Hamster 26 from my home country of the UK, welcome to you. He's saying that you know that elephant can use its trunk for various tasks, such as touch and smell, but can it taste anything through it? To my knowledge, Hamster 26, no. It doesn't feed through its trunk. It picks up food and then places it in its mouth from there. It doesn't absorb any food through the trunk, so it will rely mostly on smell and touch to identify those food things. And from that, it will know whether or not it's a good thing to put in its mouth already. But elephants do have taste buds on their tongue and in their mouth, just like we do, although nowhere near as advanced in terms of, well, as far as we know, anyway, in terms of the level of complexity of taste and a description of that taste that they would be able to get. But could they tell the difference between sweet, sour, bitter, those sorts of things? Yes, it is believed that they can. But their sense of smell is so much more developed that they will rely on that more than they would on taste. And remember that taste, even for us, owes an awful lot to our sense of smell. If you've ever lost your sense of smell, or particularly bunged up from a cold, your ability to taste is also very much hampered. Rebecca Bishop, you're saying, oh, to be a croc in the rivers of Africa. Yeah, you don't have too much to worry about if you're a croc. If you like a fairly sedentary lifestyle, you don't have to worry about eating 3 square meals a day. Absolutely. There are worse lives to live, I think, than being a croc. Not very many natural predators to worry about. Existence, one would think. Yeah. That one is my screen froze at just the wrong moment there. I'm not quite sure if that came from the youngster or from the adult. I imagine it was probably from the youngster after he was rebuffed from trying to get too close to that pipe. But very, very cool to hear that audio. And GM, you say you saw a lion pride come in for a nighttime drink at Old Donyo. You saw a female, a male, and 3 cubs, and an aunt. That's very, very cool. Always a good idea to watch these cameras. You never know what's going to turn up. I still think in all the times that I've been doing live at the Waterhole, I've seen 1 leopard live, which I can't now think where it was. I think one of the feeds in Kapama, and a very, very brief lion sighting, and I think Cat-Eye Pan, if I recall, but I think it was 2 females, and they were chased off into the bushes by an elephant before we really got any sort of look at them at all. So yeah, you never know what's going to come calling. Greetings, Jive Bunny, to you, and you're greeting us and everybody else online. And you said you saw the 7 planets last Friday. Well, very lucky you. I did not, because in fact I've barely seen a star for about 2 weeks. Where I am, it's been a horrible spate of cloudy weather. I go out every night in the hope that the forecast is wrong, but alas, it has not been. And it does look as though it might start to improve over the next week or 2. So I'm itching and chomping at the bit to get out there and enjoy some more celestial views and take some more photos. I've got various projects that I want to do, various objects that I want to photograph, but have just been unable over the last month or so. Such has been the spate of cloudy, humid and rainy weather here in the Lowveld. But we can't complain too much. And we are, as we move into autumn now and through to winter, we can expect month-long clear skies, which is always a highlight for me, as well as some slightly more reasonable temperatures. Very brave giraffe and very tolerant elephants. Indeed, Tilapower, you're saying you love to see various species hanging out together. It is nice, isn't it? Rather than seeing species in isolation, ecosystems are built on relationships between organisms, so it is wonderful when we get to see them all living in harmony together. Always the younger bull who just has a little bit of a glance at those poor giraffe.
If you're thinking about booking a trip with Wild Earth, do it. I highly recommend it.
Become a Wild Earth YouTube member today and unlock extras and bonuses, like ad-free streams so you can stay immersed in your safari without any interruption. Have your burning questions answered first by me or other expert naturalists. Join now to avoid missing out on these amazing benefits. Help us connect people to nature.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Best part of the job, gosh, I just love everything about guiding. I love being able to observe animal behavior and animals behaving naturally. So for me, that's by far the best part of the job. And so what we do here at Wild Earth is develop those connections with the people that are viewing and maybe just light a little spark that says, you know what, I want to be involved in protecting this ecosystem.
Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions.
Animals rely on their senses.
Share your thoughts and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live.
Right, Spas, just for you, I've been doing a quick bit of reading the last minute or two on the dwarf crocodiles. It was indeed the dwarf crocodiles that I mentioned a little while ago that were orange due to possibly bat guano and things from a particular group of those animals that were living in caves somewhere in West Africa. But they are, as you say, a lot smaller, or as the name would suggest. They only get up to about 6 foot long. And it seems that they have slightly more, or one extra set of transverse scales on their neck, and they also have osteoderms on their throat and on their belly, apparently. But in terms of their snout, it's about as wide as it is long, so a lot more stunted than that of the Nile crocodile. And I didn't realise they even occur in places like the Congo. So I shall be continuing to try and increase my knowledge on dwarf crocodiles. But for those of you who were unaware of such things existed, as the name suggests, they are the smallest of all the crocodile species on the planet, as far as I can tell. So a maximum length of about 2 meters. They're 6 foot, give or take. I always fell for these giraffe. You can just sort of see them looking wantedly towards the water there. So one of them took a chance and got away with it. But yeah, I think I'd also wait my turn. Okay, let's head over to the other one of our cameras in Kenya and go over to Lentore. Ah, and a beautiful vervet monkey. Everybody's favourite until they break into your room and utterly trash the place. But there is something particularly cute about monkeys, and I have a lot of respect for these vervet monkeys. I've had my tent broken into. If you so much as leave a window open, you won't be doing it too many times, on the assumption that you do learn from your mistakes. They have learnt to deal with people rather well, but always entertaining to watch, particularly if there's youngsters involved. Always amazed by just how dexterous they are. They just skip through those trees and jump from branch to branch with absolutely no fear whatsoever. It's been lovely to go through life with such confidence in your tree climbing abilities. Probably how I used to be when I was a kid. Fell out of my fair share when I was young, but consider yourself pretty bulletproof and you get up again. Nowadays, careful where I'm putting my feet. If I do have to scale a tree, I only had to do it out of necessity once or twice over the years. Once to get away from a great big herd of buffalo, which was marauding towards me, with no malice, I have to point out. I was just in the middle of a huge open area with one big jackleberry and about 300 head of buffalo approaching me. I had nowhere to go, so decided that the jackleberry was the safest option, which it was. I had some beautiful views of this caravan of buffalo passing underneath. Another one of my great memories from my guiding career. But fond memories of tree climbing from my youth. I was fortunate enough to grow up in the country next to a field, and me and my friend used to get together and we would try and get from one edge of the field to the other, so probably about 300 meters without touching the ground, going along the tree line, jumping from tree to tree with minimal regard for our own personal safety. Used to get back absolutely covered in cuts and scrapes because a lot of those trees were holly trees, which are not the best ones to go clambering about in, but at that age we just didn't care. It was before the age of mobile phones, when we had to go out and entertain ourselves, building tree houses and things. They were good days. Jive Bunny, you are saying that Lentora is a wonderful addition to the Africam library of cams. I completely agree. I think it's one of many people's favorites just because of the unusual things that we get to see here. I love its position almost at eye level or at water level. So we get some really good views. It's nice and close to the water as well. We get some beautiful birding. We often see things like firefinches coming down for drinks and some little waxbills. And yeah, we've had all sorts of unusual sightings up here, from ground squirrels to mongooses, often see baboons. This is definitely a male monkey, as he's showing off his turquoise accoutrements, struggling to find the appropriate word. Somebody asked about non-verbal communication. There's an example for you. You'll often find the dominant male of a troop will sit up in the trees, exposing that vibrant colour as a sign of dominance and authority. And Ellie, you're loving those beautiful sort of little face masks that the vervets have got. I agree. They're very pretty faces to look at. Ah, speaking of, is that our ground squirrel? It certainly looks like it. Foraging around for something. I love these little things. trotting along the water's edge, searching for little seeds and things. Oh, he's off. And there are, by the looks of it, some of the firefinches. Everything right on cue. Beautiful, vibrant colours. See a superb starling in the background there with that sort of chestnut belly just visible underneath that shining iridescent back and crown that they have. But nice to see these little firefinches having a bath. Lovely to see a little splash of colour, or things of colour splashing. A little ground squirrel on a mission in the background, but it sounds like some elephants have arrived at Tau. Let's go enjoy them for a while. Or at least one.
We love all creatures in the African bush, from the biggest to the smallest, including the tiny little insects and arthropods, but some of them are not as charming as we'd like them to be. So that's why I trust peaceful sleep. And it lasts up to 8 hours too, so I can stay out longer, both at day and night, and not feel like I'm somebody's snack.
Become a Wild Earth YouTube member and unlock exclusive bonuses and benefits. Enjoy uninterrupted, ad-free streams so you can stay immersed in nature. Have your burning questions answered first by me or other expert naturalists. Enjoy exclusive access to special broadcasts and videos, and help us to connect people to nature.
Are you ready for the adventure of a lifetime? Wild Earth Travel's newsletter is your passport to a magical journey. Explore exclusive travel options featuring special offers at stunning Wild Earth locations and all hosted by your favorite presenters. Don't miss out. Head over to our website and subscribe to the Wild Earth Travel newsletter today and stay in the know on all our unforgettable adventures. Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
Being Old Wives' Tale, a classic one that I used to use before I realised it was incorrect because I was told it by somebody else, was the origins of the word guinea fowl. We now know it's just because of the area of Guinea where they were recorded, but somebody told me in Namibia once that the name stemmed from during one of the wars, and soldiers didn't have any resources. They'd sort of run out of food and were struggling to find their own food, and they would employ the local children to go and catch these birds, and when they supplied them, they would be given 1 guinea in return as payment. I thought that was a lovely story to tell as a guide, because that's what we're supposed to do, and if we can find ways to integrate the cultural heritage of the area along with its associated wildlife, I thought that was a wonderful story. Until somebody questioned it, and I went to go and check it, and it seems that that is just one of those wives' tales. Still a nice story. I don't know if there is any sort of deep-seated root or history in there, but alas, it seems that that is not the case. Ellie, very well put. Something amazing and beautiful in any animal on our beautiful Earth. I agree. I mean, just look at this. We've got 4 or 5 species within view, each of them perfectly suited for their habitat, and each of them absolutely spectacular in their own way. We've got impalas, elephants, wildebeest, zebra. I'm sure that crocodile is not too far away either. Every one of them so different from each other, but also sharing similar characteristics, but perfectly designed to utilize the area to which they are best suited to the best of their abilities. Natural selection, Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it, is very, very clever and diverse. Catherine, you were saying you heard the same story for guinea pigs that I just mentioned with the guinea fowl. Yes, it makes you wonder, and old wives' tales, you never quite know, and stories get adapted and changed, and there's obviously some similarity in the name there. Maybe the story did originate from guinea pigs, and somebody decided to then attribute it to guinea fowl. I'm just not sure, but so you always have to be a bit careful of these, and some of them just trend, to use a topical word at the moment. They pick up a little bit of traction, and everybody knows about it, and everybody talks about it, and the next thing you know, it becomes incorrect common knowledge. I see Gwyn is in my ear now. Afternoon, Gwyn, and has been for a little while. My apologies for not introducing you to your loving fans, Gwyn. But Gwen asked me how these elephants could be such different colours in the same area. Obviously, one very orange and one very dark. It's difficult to know for sure, Gwen, assuming they've been hanging out together. But I think the smaller one has evidently enjoyed a nice dust bath in some of that red soil that Madikwe is well known for, and the other one not so much. Or, as you suggested, maybe he was much wetter. And that has covered the coloration of that red soil. It's a bit hard to see whether he has had a bit of a mud bath already. But remember that all elephants are basically the same colour, a fairly standard grey, as are all rhinos, and any colour differences you do see are exactly from this. It is going to be dictated by the soil type or the minerals within those soils. So I'd assume these soils are very iron rich, which does tend to give them a reddish orange colour. If you find sort of whitish soils, it might be high in calcium or just very leached of all nutrients and minerals. Darker soils are typically far more nutrient rich. So you can tell a lot from an area with regard to its soil, and that will be manifested in the elephants with their habit of dust bathing. And I think somebody earlier asked why the elephants are throwing mud and things onto themselves, and was it to deal with the sunlight and the UV rays? Absolutely it is, yeah. It's a very effective sunblock. Might also save you from creatures from outer space. If you've ever watched the original Predator, with Arnold Schwarzenegger smearing mud onto himself to keep his heat in so the Predator couldn't see him. I'm not sure if there's any scientific basis for that, but it's my favourite movie of all time and made me think of it, so I thought I would share. But it's also good to deal with parasites as well. So often you'll find an elephant will have a mud bath and then will go to a scratching post, be it a rock, a tree stump, and then have a good scratch. And always think of it as using the soil basically, just like we would use an exfoliant. Yeah, let's head back up to Kenya and Oldonyo, and I think we've got a few more giraffes have come a calling. Well, I feel the giraffe are ganging up on this one elephant. I don't fancy your chances, giraffes. You can kind of see them all daring one another. Yeah, you go a bit closer, see if you can have a drink, see if he notices. Oops, it looks like we have one brave soul who's going to consider it. It's just kind of egging each other on. Yes, the majority of elephants have moved off. It's obviously swap over time in the timeshare at the waterhole. I'll leave it to one of the ladies to take the first step. She's not scared. Yeah, so it just takes one, and then everybody else follows suit. It'll be interesting to watch this elephant's reaction, if he feels like he's being enveloped a little bit, but I think he's quite happy there. He's got his prime position with the trunk on the inflow pipe. You can see him manipulating it there at the base. So I think as long as nobody gets too close, he should be all right, but the giraffe will be wary. Beautiful scenes these, though, eh? Dark Mane lover, you love seeing lots of giraffe. Well, in that case, you've come to the right place. It's lovely to see them sharing the space with the elephant. Gina Biddle, you're saying that Predator is in your top 5 movies of all time, and you've seen it too many times to count. Well, I hear you, and I don't want to go too off-piste of Live at the Waterhole, but for those of you who haven't seen it, it may be, I think, 1986 or something it came out. But having watched it again recently, it still holds its own. It's still one of my all-time favourites. So, Gina, you have good taste. Very difficult to put your top 5 movies of all time together because they're constantly changing, but some of them are stalwarts that remain with you, most of them childhood ones. So Predator and Aliens, the first one was brilliant, but the second one is probably in there as well. Oh, looks like everyone's going to have to clear out. It's elephant approaching with purpose. You can see how the other one made space for him as well. Bit of a dominance thing going on there. Whether or not how much of that was with the way that he actually approached, very confident manner that he approached the watering hole, but the other one didn't even put up a fight. But I feel obliged to finish my top 5. The other 3, off the top of my head, The Martian, Contact, and then it's going to be a toss-up between The Matrix and Inception. There you go, there's my top 5/6 for today at least. Indy Tillapow, you're now quoting me lines from Predator. I like you a lot. Yes, I ain't got time to bleed. One of many classic lines throughout that I still quote, and my friends and I still throw at each other sometimes as well. It's a movie full of classic one-liners. Arnie at his best. Cool. And I've got a fright from those impalas. Although I should say that, of course, wasn't Arnie's line. That was Jesse Ventura, or Blaine, the character from the movie. But I really must stop talking about Predator instead of enjoying these wonderful cameras from Africa. Apologies to all of you who have no idea what we're talking about. Well, this elephant really has cleared everybody away. The giraffe have disappeared, the other elephant has taken his leave, some impalas sped past, and then there was one.
This September, join me, Eric Bonner, for a 3-night luxury safari at Conway Private Game Reserve. Take part in a hands-on rhino collaring experience while learning about the vital efforts it takes to protect these animals. As night falls, Ben Coley will take you on a journey through the stars, revealing the secrets of the African skies. This is more than just a safari. 40% of your stay goes directly to rhino conservation. Play your part in protecting our rhinos. Book this once-in-a-lifetime adventure today.
Join the Wild Earth YouTube superfan community and unlock a world of additional perks. Get exclusive early access or discounts to Wild Earth travel deals. Wear the best bush attire with merchandising discounts. Enjoy an interactive live monthly private safari. Don't miss out on the ultimate fan experience. Join the YouTube superfan community today.
Would you like to know what an elephant's favorite food is? You could ask me questions like that in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive from the heart of Africa.
Over here.
Watch Safari Live and connect with nature.
Very idyllic moment. I'm sitting here thinking of other movies now, but trying to keep it relevant to what we're watching. And I think another favourite, not that I've watched for a long time, is The Ghost in the Darkness, the story behind the Savo man-eating lions. Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas, I think. I remember when I was working at Korongwe for eco training, we had some students in, and we had a movie night. And we thought it was poignant to show The Ghost in the Darkness, so we were all sitting around in what is an unfenced camp in a Big Five reserve, I might add, but we were all sitting in the lecture room, watching it on the projector screen with a speaker. We had it nice and loud, and there was a point in there, it was dark outside by this time, that we were hearing the lions roaring on the Ghost in the Darkness movie. And then a couple of minutes later, there was quite a quiet period of the movie, and we had lions roaring from quite close by outside. And I think after that, we all got slightly more apprehensive than we were, and probably turned the volume down a little bit. But I have no illusions that the lions were responding. I'm sure it was just coincidental, but it was a nice friendly reminder watching a movie about man-eating lions in a Big Five reserve at night. Just to keep your wits about you at all times. Okay, I think let's head down to the Eastern Cape to Founders. Oh, and a sleepy rhino at Mountis Founders Lodge. Very popular acacia tree, this one, with the local rhino community, it seems. His ears toing and froing. Pretty much asleep, but there'll be a mixture of irritation from flies, but also still picking up sounds. His radar dish ears do not miss very much. Let's say, very much reliant upon wind direction rhinos because their eyesight is not particularly good. If you are downwind from the rhino can't smell you or cannot hear you because your sound is being carried away from it on the wind, you can actually get very close to rhinos. But of course we do not recommend that. But white rhinos generally relatively docile creatures. And so over the years I have been fortunate enough to have some incredible views of rhino on foot, relatively close, within sort of 20 meters or so, with the animal completely unaware that we are there. And that is the ultimate goal, is to view wildlife doing, or in its natural environment, performing natural behavior, not reacting to our presence. So it always is the number one consideration to try and get in and get out of a sighting completely unnoticed. It's when you're going to get the best experience in terms of spending time with that animal. Just have to hope the wind doesn't change at the last minute, and then you can find yourself in a potentially sticky situation. But say, regardless, always good to have an escape route for you and the animal, be that a drainage line, some form of elevation, a termite mound, and say always ensure that the animal has an escape route that doesn't involve it going through you. So rhinos, relative, I don't want to say lazy is the wrong word, but enjoy a rest more so than things like elephants, certainly. Elephants really only will rest for perhaps a couple of hours a day, if that, often sleep standing up, but a rhino will get somewhere between 6 and 10 hours of sleep during a 24-hour period, often under a tree during the shade, often at night time. It's been very often out on game drives where you find rhinos sleeping on the sandy roads in certain reserves. You find them in the morning. Wayne Lovely was saying that rhino ears remind you of Shrek. Yeah, absolutely, or Yoda, perhaps. Although I always think that from young buffaloes, with those big ears drooping down, they very much remind me of Yoda. How did I not have Star Wars in my favourite movies? What sort of 1980s child am I? But as I say, my list varies depending on the day. Silky, you're asking why these rhinos are not dehorned, and it's such a pleasure to see them as nature intended. Well, I agree with the second part. I don't know the specific practice that the reserve management has in place here at Mantis Founders Lodge. As far as I know, they do dehorn the rhinos, but they will only dehorn them once every probably 3 years, perhaps, because it allows for the horn to grow back over time. The idea for that is to not put the animal through too much undue stress of having to anaesthetize it and actually go through the dehorning process again, which is done with, well, normally, unless things have changed. Last time I was aware, with chainsaws and things. It's something that I have been a part of. I think I mentioned this the other week when I was on. I've been involved in a few rhino dehornings over the years, and I found the whole thing to be horribly uncomfortable, not just because of the reasoning behind why it was necessary, but so to have a chainsaw whirring, it must be a very, very stressful time for the animal. Yes, it's anaesthetized, but it's not completely unconscious. It can't be. How much of it knows or remembers or feels, I like to think very little, but I found the whole situation very unpleasant to be a part of, and not something that I'm particularly keen on doing again. It's a fascinating insight into how the conservation management and how the wildlife vets are working to protect these animals, and a good excuse to get up close and personal with them. But the principle behind it, I didn't enjoy at all. So I also noticed, but I didn't want to mention anything, Silky, but I did notice this one had a slightly longer tusk than I would normally expect to see here on these cameras. Horn, sorry. So I have no doubt that at some point in the not too distant future there will be another round of dehorning.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change. We are thrilled to announce our new exclusive feature for YouTube members and explorers. Join us live every Tuesday for our sunrise and sunset safaris. Experience Tawny Tuesday like never before with up-close encounters and breathtaking moments. Don't miss out. Become a YouTube member or explorer today and immerse yourself in the heart of the bush. See you Tuesday.
Getting up. Some of you may well be aware of this, but there were some figures released recently. I'm not sure, again, how 100% accurate they are, but that there have been 35 rhinos lost in Kruger National Park this year already, which is a lot more than it has been recently in terms of the scheme of things. Why all of a sudden that poaching has returned to KZN, I'm not so sure. Sorry, to Kruger National Park, I'm not so sure. And KZN did have some problems over the last couple of years. Perhaps, again, whether there are now fewer in KZN or whether the authorities have tightened the grip a little bit, has pushed the poaching activities back up north again. I'm not so sure. But that's basically one every 2 days just within the Kruger Park, which is one every 2 days too many. That's a warthog. I thought it was another rhino. It just shows you what perspective can do. I was trying to work out why that rhino suddenly seemed to be having a lovely slumber there and suddenly got up and moved off. And when I saw that from a distance, I thought, well, maybe another rhino has arrived, but it's a dwarf rhino. Although I always think baby rhinos look like adult warthogs. I don't know how we missed this one having a little roll around in the mud. Certainly looks as if it has been lying in the water at some point, looking at the water line on the body there. It seems to be quite content watching this youngster approaching, who's also been in the water by the look of it. That characteristic two-tone stripe down the flank. Beautiful shining in the sunlight. I'm assuming it's a female and a youngster. Of course, they normally on average have 4 or 5 little ones, but a high mortality rate. So generally lucky to just get 1 or 2 to adulthood, depending on the predator population of an area. Very good food for leopard, for lion. Not so much cheetah. I mean, a cheetah would take a youngster if it was on its own, but a cheetah wouldn't chance its arm if there was an adult warthog present. Too dangerous. But even when they're very young, they can fall prey to things like pythons, even martial eagles. Lots of trials and tribulations for these youngsters to go through. But we are almost at the end of our show. We're down to under a minute. Oh, how time has flown, as always. For those of you expecting Kerry today, our apologies that she wasn't able to make it. I hope I was an acceptable stand-in. And thank you for all of your questions and comments, some good ones that came through. Kept me on my toes, certainly. But I hope you've enjoyed the show. We've had some lovely sightings of elephants, of vervets. Always great to see a rhino. Yes, whatever your plans are for the rest of the day, I wish you all the best. I hope it goes well. You've enjoyed your foray into African wildlife. And we will be back again, same time tomorrow for another session of Live at the Waterhole. Hope we will see you there.